Guys, what's the crack? Is my Bluetooth on or off? I want you to know your enemy. Hold on 1 second. Bluetooth's on. I don't know why my radio's still playing. Hopefully it sounds okay. Let's turn that down. I am just leaving to go to the office here now. And my gate is closing. How is it when you have electric gates? You can let me know in the comments if this is you. But I can never get out. When I hit the button to leave, I can never get out before the timer is like, okay, that's long enough. You should be gone by now. What did you forget? No, you should be gone by now. My Nana Mungie, God rest her, used to be the same. Used to be funny, my mum trying to get her out the door. It'd be in and out, in and out, in and out. What you forget? That's me. Thinking of you, Nan. So, know your enemy is what I want you to do. It's really important. Once you understand incentives, you can understand the world. And that's what I want to talk to you about, so you can make better investment decisions and you can retire early. So if you're new, and we have a lot of new people coming to the space here, every bull market attracts in new people, and it's fantastic. This is the place where we teach you how to retire early, we teach you to understand money, we teach you to understand Bitcoin. We don't promise you amazing returns in a short period of time. All that stuff is nonsense. I only promise to teach you everything I've learned, which was a decade worth of work to go from living in a caravan to being financially free. And that's all I aim to do, is to educate you on Bitcoin. I think it's the biggest opportunity of all our lives. And I want you to take it. So, if that sounds good, make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, say hello. So, I'll start off with a little story. When I worked in the fitness industry, okay, and I started to learn about nutrition. And I started to learn about health. And then things didn't make sense because I was doing all these things that were health related, and I had the proof because I was in amazing health, amazing shape. I hadn't got sick in years. I had 6-pack abs. I was 10 times more energy than my peers, and my mental health was absolutely amazing. So I knew what I was doing was on the right path. And also, all the fitness people in my class, when we were in college, were all doing those things. But when we started to be educated on what we should be doing, it was like, no, you shouldn't do those things. Some of those things are actually bad for you. And that didn't make sense to me. And I was like, well, how do we get here? Why is an egg demonized when I'm a healthy person, I eat loads of eggs, and all these other people in my class are very healthy people, they eat loads of eggs too. Whereas my government is telling me that an egg can kill me. I'm like, an egg is like just a natural food. How do we get here? And I know I'm on a mad ranty story, but there's a point to this, okay? Incentives rule the world. Once I started to learn about Bitcoin, it put everything in the healthcare and nutrition space together, because I'm like, if all this information is wrong, why are we teaching it? How do we get here? And it all comes down to incentives, corporate capture, political capture, okay? And literally you can get people to do anything you want. All right, and at the time there was more incentive in the grain industry. They had more political power, and they basically changed the rules, changed the science to tell people that saturated fat is really bad for you. And even the fact that I mentioned the word saturated fat, most of you people think, yeah, no, it is. That's bad for you. And the absolute irony is that saturated fat is really healthy for you, and people who have diets that are higher in saturated fat, okay, are healthier than people who don't. Because people who don't eat saturated fat, guess what they eat more of? Carbohydrate, processed, factory-made sugars, okay? And I think Mother Nature is a little bit wiser, and that's the irony, that's the conditioning, okay? That the incentive that the grain industry had was, we want to sell more grain, and people buying eggs, that's hurting our grain sales. So what we'll do is, we'll convince them that eggs are bad, and they should eat a box of cereal instead. And that is literally the brainwashing that we've done for decades, and people still struggle with it. And that's the irony, okay? So Jamie Dimon, let's bring it back to Bitcoin, said if he worked for the government, he would shut down Bitcoin, and its only use is for illicit activities, okay? Now, some poor people will open a newspaper and they'll see that today and they'll nod their head and go, that's why I shouldn't get involved. There's Jamie Dimon. Sure, he knows a thing or two. What's Jamie Dimon's incentive? You've got to focus on incentives. What is his incentive? Well, he's CEO of one of the largest banks on the planet. Okay, fair enough. What's Bitcoin? Let me just get out of here for a sec. So what Bitcoin does is, Bitcoin is going to demonetize that whole system. meaning it's going to steal its value. So I'm going to tell you another story. This is a much shorter story. When the horse and buggy industry learned that the motor vehicle had been invented, because they had the corporate capture, they had the political capture, because that industry had been around much longer, they lobbied so that everyone who had a motor vehicle, a car, this is back in the early 19th century, or the beginning of the 20th century, everyone who had a vehicle, a motor vehicle, had to have a man walking in front of it carrying a flag, because cars were too dangerous, according to the horse and buggy industry. Okay? Obviously, the incentive of the horse and buggy industry is the motor car is going to literally bankrupt my industry. All I can do is say negative stuff about it and try and stop its adoption. However, this is how technology works. Technology is a steamroller, people, okay? And it cannot be stopped. So once the car was invented, it was obvious and evident to those who understand the trend of technology, which has been in all humanity's history, that once the car was invented, the horse and buggy was doomed to become obsolete over time. And that's exactly what we have with our financial system, okay? Bitcoin is being invented. It is a massive threat to that system, and that system thinks that by just speaking negatively about it, it can somehow influence Bitcoin. Now, what Jamie Dimon, he knows enough at the moment to know that Bitcoin is a threat to him. What he doesn't know is that his words can't stop it, because nobody can stop Bitcoin. Because Bitcoin is basically a technology that's 1,000x better than our existing financial rails, and it doesn't matter how many years you make someone walk in front of a car with a horse and buggy, eventually horse and buggies are becoming obsolete. Just as our existing financial system is going to suffer to Bitcoin. We've already seen it happen, and it's only going to accelerate. So you can't listen to people whose financial incentive it is to give you the wrong information. And you must be able to decipher that information. Okay? And similarly, let's talk about Irish financial advisors. You know, the Ask Pauls, the Owen McGee's, the David McWilliams. All these people have talked negatively about Bitcoin for years. They simply haven't done the work. Why? Because they are multi-millionaires on a system that relies on them not understanding Bitcoin. If they understood Bitcoin, they'd feel bad about the fact that they're selling you a product that's a fiat derivative, and it'd be much more ethical for them to actually teach you about Bitcoin, because you can achieve your financial goals a lot quicker with a lot less risk. And the reason they don't is because their incentive is not to, okay? And this is where people don't get that incentives rule the world, and if you understand the incentive, you can understand the outcome. And I know you guys are smart, and I want you to share this video with friends, family, post on your socials to teach people that the reason their financial money managers aren't teaching them to understand Bitcoin is because it would hurt the money going into their own pocket. And we all operate out of self-interest. Every single human does. We all suffer from fear and greed. And that is the beauty, and that is the irony, and that is why you guys have to learn and understand that anything that comes out of the CEO's gob of the largest bank, one of the largest banks in the planet, okay, is not necessarily in my best interest. The absolute irony, okay, is that JP Morgan pay more in fines for money laundering than the entire market cap of Bitcoin. Guys, I got a call coming in. I'll hop off the live. Hopefully the sound was okay. Let me know if that resonated with you. Dinny out for now. Finish.